Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on this week's episode of Rank the Movies. I am Martin Prevost, and we're still talking about the first 5 video game franchises to ever get turned into major motion pictures. We've been working backwards. We started with number 5, Wing Commander. We then did number 4, Mortal Kombat. Last week was number 3, Street Fighter. And this week we hit the number 2, the second video game to ever get turned into a major motion picture. That is that of Double Dragon. Yeah, it's Double Dragon. Which, for some reason, I've seen this movie a couple of times. Twice. This is my second viewing since I got the Blu-ray of this movie. And before that, I hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I watched a VHS copy. Not this, well, probably not this VHS copy. You never know. It could be. I don't think it is. I really don't think it is. But it was a VHS copy of the movie Double Dragon. So, I keep forgetting, how this movie looked at Super Mario Brothers and went, hey, that's a good idea. Which we'll get to Super Mario Brothers next week. But this one also takes place in a weird, it can't just be set in the present. It needs to be set in an alternate time. It's the apocalyptic 2007, which is in the future, given the fact that this movie was 1994. So, it was looking over a decade into the future, saying that Los Angeles was going to be an apocalyptic, not apocalyptic, but an earthquake would hit, and Los Angeles would be crime-ridden. A lot of movies did that. A lot of movies did that in the late 80s, early 90s, believing that something was going to come and basically wreck part of California. Because I know Escape from LA did it, and, there's a couple others that I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head that definitely had this trope as well. So again, now we're in the future. Basically, you find out that there is the Double Dragon, which is a medallion, which I don't think is from the video game. I don't think the Double Dragon medallion is. I think it's just Jimmy and Billy Lee are the Double Dragon. It's the two of them. They are the Double Dragon, and there is no greater context. I'm not sure. I haven't played a Double Dragon video game in a long time, let alone the first Double Dragon video game. But I'm pretty sure it's just Jimmy and Billy are the Double Dragon. There's a medallion, and it's broken in half, and one dragon gives strength to the soul, and the other half gives strength to the body. And Robert Patrick is the villain, and he is looking with a culturally inappropriate name. I don't know if the name is going to be... Oh, yep, here we go. Koga Shako. Kogasuko, I think is the name. It is a very Japanese name, and he even says he took it from Chinese name. He took it from a Chinese warlord in the movie. But it's played by Robert Patrick, who is a very white man. Very, very white man. And, I don't know how good any of these images are coming out on screen, but he's sitting, he's got, a flat top white flat top going on. Yeah, he's got this real Chinese name. So he's the villain of this piece, and much like Raw Julia in Street Fighter, he is amazing in this movie. He is a reason to watch this movie by itself. His supporting cast does not help as much, and the feel of this movie doesn't help it as much as Street Fighter, where Street Fighter was a pretty decent movie, but Raw Julia made it a great movie. This one's a pretty decent movie because Robert Patrick is the villain. But he is great. He wants both halves of the medallion, but unfortunately his second in command was only able to locate half of it, the half that gives power to the soul, which basically allows him to become a ghost and possess people. His right-hand person is a woman named Lash, who looks awkward in every scene she is in this movie. And that's an actress that came from General Hospital. And yeah, she looks awkward in every scene of this movie. Every scene she is in, she just looks awkward, like nobody gave her direction, and she can't figure it out for herself. But how this movie looks, it's very possible no one gave her direction, and she couldn't figure out what to do. But yeah, she just looks awkward. He also has 2 other henchmen named Huey and Lewis, because they wanted to make a Huey Lewis in the News joke at one point in this movie. So those are his main hench people. And then you find out that LA and there's been a deal made. The cops patrol the streets during the day, and the gangs come out at night. So basically, if you're out past curfew, you're fair game for the gangs because no cops are showing up to help you. Um, Jimmy and Billy are on their way home from a karate tournament, which they lost by disqualification, and they're arguing. They have their legal guardian with them, though the age of these characters is never really established. So it might just be, hey, she was our guardian when we were kids, and now we still live and hang out with her because we're adults. Because neither of them, they look like they're probably between 17 and 20. So it's hard to know, like, are they kids or are they young adults? The movie doesn't really make it clear. Other than the fact that they're the same age as Alyssa Milano's character, who is the leader of the good gang, which is the gang trying to stop the other gangs, called the Power Corps, which is just a horrible name. I just hear Power Corps, and I just because at one point a group of weightlifters came in to my school. Or I think it was after. I think I just heard about it, and they're called the Power Team. So when I hear about the Power Corps in this movie, my brain goes to weightlifters. So I think they should be weightlifters, but they're not. They're a group of variously aged peoples who are all young kids to young adults who are fighting against the gangs because the cops won't. You find out that the Double Dragon, Billy and Jimmy's, their guardian, has the other pendant, and she's the one that hid the half that Robert Patrick now has, and she, for some reason, decides to give it to one of them because the plot demanded it. Like, she's been caretaking it for years, and she just, because they're having a conversation, she gives it to Billy. I think it's Billy. I think she gives it to Billy. They say their names a lot. Don't ask me which one. Mark DeCosta. I think Mark DeCasocos plays Jimmy or Billy, and no, Jimmy. He plays Jimmy, and Scott Wolf plays Billy Lee. I have a nice little poster with my Blu-ray copy. I need to frame this. Oh yeah, that's doing that. I'm just gonna let it die. So she gives it to one of them. Of course, Robert Patrick finds out that she has the medallion because they have a run-in with one of the gangs, whose leader, Abobo, is in with Robert Patrick's group. And so he gives him the information. He goes after that half of the medallion, which leads to the death of the caretaker, as Jimmy and Billy go off to figure out their powers and learn about the medallion. That's basically it. Just things happen in this movie. The plot is real loose because it's just about Robert Patrick wanting the other half of the medallion, and Jimmy and Billy trying to figure out how to make the other half of the medallion work. And then there are just action scenes, which aren't horrible. The action scenes aren't horrible. Overall, this movie, it's not great, but it's enjoyable. You can get a good laugh out of it. It's fairly entertaining. It's entertaining, to say the least. You have the leader of the Power Corps is played by Alyssa Milano, who the two brothers are both into, and they keep looking at her ass, and then one of them slaps the other one in the chest because they're both looking at her ass, but one of them gets jealous and hits because they're looking. This happens multiple times, and it's never like every scene, because this movie's like is it PG or did it actually PG-13? It's a PG-13 movie from '94, but every time like they do this gag, which happens 2 to 3 times throughout this movie, Alyssa Milano is always in a position where you can't actually, like, it's not like, oh, her ass looks nice. Like, oh, that's a nice ass. That's a nice ass position. One of the first time she's bending over, which you're like, oh, bending over, that makes sense. Except she's in a longer coat, so the coat's actually covering, like, when they cut to the shot of her bending over, the coat's actually covering her butt. Like, you can't actually see it because there's a coat. But there's like, oh, look at that. That's a nice butt. No, it's not. It's a coat. And the next time she's, like, squatting. So they're, like, staring at her butt. But her butt's straight down. So they're, like, staring at her back. And, like, it's weird. It's weird. It's like they wanted to have this sexual thing. But they didn't want to commit to it. So it just looks weird throughout this entire movie. Also, the fact that She almost kisses Scott Wolf at one point in time, but yet the other brother still wants some, and they don't resolve it either, because I guess in the video game you're trying to save Marion is the plot of the video game, and you eventually fight to the death to see who gets her between Jimmy and Billy. This is what I read before I did this review. I could be wrong. Again, I'm not a Double Dragon expert. Especially, definitely not early Double Dragon. I played them, but I didn't play, I was too young to care about the story. I wanted to play the fighty game. um, but yeah, it's a weird, because they decided to go for that futuristic look, kind of like Super Mario Brothers did. And this is weird. It's just weird that the second video game movie would try to do that instead of trying to, go a different path, make it modern, do something different, just in case it doesn't work. What history showed us didn't work for Super Mario Brothers. It's a cult classic now, but it wasn't a mainstream hit. I think it did fairly well, but it didn't. But it still got a huge amount of bad publicity and bad criticism because of how the movie is, and we'll get into that next week. But to follow that same path instead of, maybe we'll try a different path just in case, we can't copy them. Why copy them if we don't know that that's going to turn out well when we can just try a different path? Especially since the video game is about two guys, fighting through a gang warfare to rescue the woman they love. Yeah, that's okay. That's Super Mario Brothers. As I say that out loud, two brothers fighting through a bunch of levels with bosses at the end, all trying to reach a single female who at least one, if not both, are interested in. Yeah, that's Super Mario Brothers. That actually is super. Okay, I get it. I get why the movie had to be like the Super Mario Brothers movie, because the plots of the games are basically the same. It's just instead of plumbers, they're ninjas or karate experts. Okay, I've learned something new while talking through this. Double Dragon just ripped off Mario's plot. It did way less well. The games and the movie, I think, both don't hold up as well through time. Double Dragon isn't one, you remember it fondly as, I saw Double Dragon, I played Double Dragon. This movie also does a weird meta thing where they're fighting in a room full of arcade machines, and one of them is a Double Dragon arcade machine. It's weird. So I praised Street Fighter last week for getting the characters into their game costumes, and because they had so many characters, they dispersed it out throughout the entire movie, so by the end, all of them basically got into it. This one, you only have two characters, because Marion, I don't know what she looked like in the video games. I can't imagine how Alyssa Milano looks in this movie as anything like that. And Abobo, and that's kind of the same thing. I didn't look up any pictures, but I don't think... Oh, yeah, and Lash. I don't think they probably looked that close. So all you got is Billy and Jimmy. And all Billy and Jimmy need to do is one needs to wear a red gi, and the other one needs to wear a blue gi. This takes you an hour and 25 minutes, probably-ish, of the movie before you get them in their gis. This movie is an hour and 35 minutes, meaning they are in their blue and red suits, which they wear in the games, for the last 10 minutes. Because it's not until they have both halves of the medallion that for some reason it transforms them to have the red and blue gi, even though both of them have technically used the power of the medallion by this point in the movie. But yeah, at some point, because there are two of them and only one Robert Patrick, when they finally have the medallion, it's real anticlimactic because there is no villain to fight them now. Now they have the power of the Double Dragon, but Robert Patrick has no power because he has no piece of the medallion, and there isn't another villain who is set up to be a final confrontation with them. So they just kind of beat up Robert Patrick, possess his body, and make him give himself up to the cops, and that's the end of it. You think you would have put a villain, or at least something that they could have fought. He had these other two hench people, these other two Asian hench people. Why weren't they superpowered like Abobo, so that brothers can have the medallions and actually have a fight with the medallions, instead of just beating up poor Robert Patrick, who had no power at this point. Like, it seems real douchey of the brothers, where they could have just, like, pushed him over and been done with him right there after they have the medallion, that they beat him up for a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, he's the reason your guardian is dead, but at the same time, you now have powers, and you're supposed to be the good guys, and now you're picking on this guy who really can't defend himself, because at no point has Robert Patrick been shown in this movie to be a martial artist. It's shown that he uses the power of his medallion to help him fight, but not that he himself is a good fighter. And you know that Billy and Jimmy are. So it's just one of those weird moments of maybe there should have been another villain. And then the movie decides to end on a couple of really weak jokes, which is the three, Alyssa Milano and the Lee brothers, in their car being driven off by a Bobo, but a Bobo is apparently a really bad driver. I have the hiccups. So they all scream in terror as the car drives away, and you would think that just would have been a freeze and then credits, but no, they have to drive down a road where they drive past Robert Patrick's two other henchmen, Huey and Lewis, who for some reason aren't in the final battle. They're just sitting there with signs saying, "We'll hench for food," and I forget what the other one says, and then they start walking down the road, are complaining about what they're going to do next. It's like, these, why? Again, I have nostalgia for this movie. I think when you really want to watch it, it's a good, fun watch. It's one you can make fun of if that's something you're looking for. But as a movie all on its own, this is not a good movie. It's got a lot of problems, and it's not very well thought out. And again, it's kind of that middle ground. Well, it's not even the middle ground, because it didn't want to do its video game plot, which in this case, even though I said it's the same as Mario, basically, this one would have translated into a movie way easier to have these two brothers have their mutual love interest kidnapped and have them fight through the gangs of a city to reach her, because the gangs have been unified under one head boss. And the head boss is the one that's kidnapped her, and they have to fight through, and those are the scenes you get. I think that would have translated into a really good movie by itself, but they decided not to go that route. Double Dragon is also the only property, this and Wing Commander, I guess. I keep forgetting about Wing Commander. Much like Time has forgotten about Wing Commander, the movie. This has not gotten a remake or a reboot or anything else. Basically, the property, it failed as this movie, and that was the end of the property. Nobody wanted to touch it as a theatrical film since. Or I don't even know if they've even tried to really make it into anything else. Like Mario, at least, you've heard rumors of them wanting to make another one, and now they are. But Double Dragon, I'm not even sure there's been rumors. I'm pretty sure it's just one of those, we tried, and this is what we got. So yeah, overall, Double Dragon as the second video game adaptation into a feature film. You start looking at these first five that were chosen and how they look and how well they are. And yeah, they hold true to, the cult standings. Most of them are now, Super Mario Brothers, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, the original Mortal Kombat anyways, not Annihilation, are all kind of cultural staples. They're remembered fondly as nostalgia movies that you watched as a kid and you really liked as a kid, but you now realize that they're not great movies, but you still really like them because you still find some enjoyment in them. And Double Dragon really doesn't hold that same thing. It a little bit, but not as much. And Wing Commander holds nothing. That you have to wonder, the box office on all these movies had to be real, real good. And I know they were. Mortal Kombat had a good box office. Super Mario Brothers had a fairly good box office. I think this one did not as well as either of those, but it's still decent. And I think Street Fighter had an alright box office. Wing Commander had a shitty box office. That's the only reason other video game movies got adapted. And now, it's become more easy to adapt a video game But back then there was nothing, because we're starting with the first ones. There is nothing to compare it to. Like, you are just blindly making a movie based on a property that has value in the form it's in, but may not have value in being turned into a major motion picture. It's kind of like looking at the first movies that were based on a television show. I'm not sure what those movies are. I feel like The Addams Family is pretty high on that list, that it's one of the originals of a movie based on a TV show, but I'm not 100% sure on that one, and just how those look. I might have to do that later on down the road. Maybe I'll take a look at what those movies are, just because it is weird to see, like, the translation. Like, a book, that happened eons ago. Like, the first couple of movies were probably based on books that were ever made, or plays, or anything else. So those really, they work. They sell. You have an audience. But the first time you try taking a video game and turn it into a movie, you don't know that's going to happen. You just hope it happens. And I think Double Dragon, I got way off topic because I'm not even talking about Double Dragon anymore. Double Dragon did its best to try to keep this afloat. And it very well could have been, because Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were hot on Double Dragon's tail for release. So I think Double Dragon, even though I don't think it did that well, I think those other two came up and just saved it. Like, if there was time, a larger gap, because I think Street Fighter also came out in 94, just later in 94, and Mortal Kombat was 95. I think if there was, like, I think Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat both dropped in, like, late 95, I think Double Dragon and Super Mario might have killed video game movies for a while. I don't think it would have done it forever, but I think it would have done it for a while. Because even now, these movies themselves, if you pull up a list, it's a stagnated list up until you get to a more modern time where, it's more accepted to turn your video game a concept into a new property, whether it be a movie or a TV show. But yeah, so Double Dragon, if you've never seen it, check it out. It's a weird, campy 1994 movie with one really good actor and a bunch of actors. If you're someone who's really into Alyssa Milano, I mean, she's in it. She, again, I'm not even sure if she made... No, I don't think so. I don't think she made the cover. Because the cover is made by all of the villains, except, oddly enough, Lash? Wait, are these just all the villains that... No, this isn't even all the villains. This is the random hodgepodge of villains, and some of them don't even do villainy things. They just I've never really looked at what characters were on this art before. Is this the exact same art? I'm just making sure. Yeah, that's the exact same art. Yeah, no, I've never really looked. You have Robert Patrick, obviously, and you have at least 4 forms that he possesses. Okay, so that's all technically Robert Patrick right there. You have a Bobo in his monster form. You have a Bobo's right hand who just runs around this movie after a Bobo gets transformed and does stuff. Then you've got a gang leader who gets taken out by Robert Patrick in one scene, and 2 random characters, one of which I think was just laying on a table passed out, or in suspended animation, and you don't even see them do anything. And the other one I can't place. I have no idea where this person came from or where they are in this movie, and I just watched it. That's a weird combination when you have, like, again, Robert Patrick's 2 side henchmen. You have Lash. There are other villains who could have made this cover, and then to not have your sex symbol, Alyssa Milano, anywhere on this box is just weird, because now you're not renting copies of this or selling this based off of Alyssa Milano being in it. I dropped my tape, I'm sorry. Unless you're actually looking at the cast list at the bottom of this thing, because it's not written at the top. At the top, you got a double blast of fun, an entertaining high-energy mix, New York Post. The guy at the New York Post does not know taste. The hit video game. Nope, that's not one. Oh, you played the video game. Now, no, that's not an actual. So the only piece of flair they had from any news source was whoever was writing for the New York Post. Because there's like they have other things that look like they should be pop lines to tell you what that you should watch this movie, but they're not actually pop lines. They're just things that they wrote. All right, well, that says a lot. And are there any on here? No, this is just the poster. This is just the poster. Evil has just met its match. That's a horrible tagline. Very generic. That's a very generic and horrible tagline. I'm making sure this actually was a copy of Double Dragon. That's weird. So obviously, this movie came out in 1994. The tape is marked as oddly enough, I can't show it because it's too far away. Yeah. All right. So I'm not gonna finish that thought. I just decided not to. But yeah. If you want to check out Double Dragon, go ahead. It's an entertaining piece of 1994 nostalgic drag. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Or you can check out if you want it on Blu-ray, you can get the MVD Rewind collection. Put it out on Blu-ray, and it has actually a fairly decent amount of special features, which is weird. I'm not a special features guy. I don't buy based on special features, though sometimes it is nice to look and be like, man, they have a new Don Murray Portrait of a Producer featurette. I don't know who Don Murray is, and I don't know why I need to watch a featurette on why he's a producer. I don't know why. All right, in the comments, let me know. Has anyone bought this to watch the new Don Murray Portrait of a Producer featurette? I want to know. That special feature has sold a single copy of this movie. I don't know why. I just feel like I need to. Plus it's a DVD and Blu-ray. It's got the reversible cut. I don't know why I'm trying to sell this. That's not my job. All right, next week we wrap up this segment, this month, by talking about the first video game to ever be adapted into a movie. We're talking the Super Mario Brothers movie. John Leguizamo, Bob Hoskins, Dennis Hopper. It's going to be a good time, so come back next week and check that one out. I am Martin. I should have worn this Jurassic Park shirt for that video. That would have fit. I didn't even realize what shirt I was wearing. I just walked in and started filming. I'm Martin Primos. This is Rank the Movies. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.